Clear the strip! Clear the strip! It's a series returning from hiatus! Man down! Man down!
Oh man, I haven't touched this in a while. We'll see.
And now, with a massive thank you to Chris, aka MysteryMan17, for editing this video after Milan did up the audio track and honestly just doesn't like the editing process of these sometimes, the return of Milan Ramblings!
So I'm gonna take a wild guess and assume you've all heard the news, but I don't know, maybe some of you haven't heard the news. Thomas & Friends is getting an actual reboot this time, and not just a rebrand with a few new writers and a few bells and whistles attached to it. Thomas & Friends All Engines Go is launching in fall 2021, and man, I feel really conflicted about it. On the one hand, I'm not entirely against Mattel doing a complete reboot, considering what a mess things have been for the last little while with the brand. And being completely honest, compared to a lot of other reboots, it doesn't look that bad. Like, it's not Thomas at all in the slightest, and I don't like it. But visually, it's actually pretty cute looking and not overly simple or absolutely terrifying to look at. It's actually pretty smoothly animated considering how many episodes are pumping out, and I actually like some of the designs in all honesty. Well, not all the designs. There's some weird choices going on here. Honestly, if anything, my concerns are less about it being true to Thomas, which at this point there's like 50 AUs within the actual canon itself you could go by, so we don't even know what's truly Thomas. And more as a connoisseur of many cartoon trains, the fact that this looks and feels generic writing-wise. You've got kid actors, the stories seem like they're gonna be typical moral things like, Thomas, don't do the cool thing, don't race the cool boss baby diesel. It just kinda feels like this is gonna be a generic toddler cartoon, which, yeah, I know this is geared towards a younger audience compared to the original show, but I don't know, it could be a little better. That, and there are just some weird choices going on with, like, the characters. Why is Carly a train? Why is Kenji back? Why did we need this character instead of, like, the other female characters that could have been perfectly useful instead of just constantly casting them aside? But oh, no, let's keep Kenji, the guy who showed up for 2 episodes. He's essential. Rather, instead of ranting about my thoughts on the reboot, I'm going to rant and rave about my theories on the reboot. For you see, there are some very strange things that are not quite so normal that we've seen in the past with this reboot. And especially when you consider the last 2 reboots Mattel has done with hit-owned properties, it seems just a little bit suspicious to me. So here we go, buckle up folks, you're gonna hear my insane ramblings for an undetermined amount of time. Here we go. So the first thing that particularly stood out to me about All Engines Go is how little merch we've seen revealed so far. Obviously there's no toy fairs and stuff to reveal stuff, but hear me out. Before Big World Big Adventures came out, there was a large marketing and merchandising push going into it. You had cocktail parties at MIP Jr., you had the whole presentations going, check it out, we got Nick Jr., we're gonna be appealing to all these countries, we got loads of merchandise planned. It's gonna be pretty snazzy, you better get on board. All aboard to Discovery, boys. And gals, and all in between, because we accept all genders and identities. But not so much with All Engines Go. They don't seem as enthusiastic about it. Like, we've gotten press releases and stuff, but there's not really as much of the hype that there was for Big World and Bob the Builder 2015 and other things, I don't know. This is very apparent when you look at the merchandising that they've got so far, at least officially revealed. There could be a bunch still planned. T-shirts, lunchboxes, pajamas, a toddler board book, a possible wood redesign, considering this has some of the stylistic choices. It doesn't seem quite like what we'd expect from Mattel. They're usually really pushing a lot of it. I didn't even bring up the fact that there's going to be 104 episodes of this right off the bat with 2 seasons, along with 2 other movies, and 2D rigged animation is generally faster to get out. Right after 2 computer animated reboots that cost a lot of time and money to do, and also as they just spent the last year rebranding all the merch under one umbrella and style guide.
Doesn't this sound a little fruity to you?
Considering Wood was a huge expensive flop that they want to get rid of as fast as possible, and Big World Big Adventures and the Bob the Builder reboot didn't do particularly great, and unlike the Nickelodeon agreement, the recent Cartoon Network deal mostly just seems to be there for cable and distribution revenue. My personal theory is All Engines Go is going to be a lot lower risk and a lot lower cost, and most likely Wood is going to get rebranded into All Engines Go merch. Why get rid of something that's clearly making a lot of money when you can just take the new show, run it as its own separate thing like they did with My First Thomas Thomas Railway Pals, take Wood out, which didn't really go so well, rebrand it as All Engines Go with new designs inspired by the series, and make that the premium main toy line with maybe a few other little things here and there, so that way it's a lot lower risk, takes the odd one out, and then, you know, have a little extra thing with you. So that way you have one thing you're really pushing for television, and then another merchandise line to fall back on. Not to mention, you know, actually making people maybe want to get Wood, considering no one seems to want it right now. I don't think a lot of Canadians want to pay $70 for a wooden Cranky and Bulstrode. And speaking of merchandise, that leads into my next theory. So in 2020, Mattel decided to rebrand the Thomas Trackmaster line into a generic, straightforward Thomas line. They finally realized no one wants 2 million Thomas stunt sets and actually decided to focus on making it about trains again. People buy trains because they're trains, what a concept! The Talking Thomas and Percy set did really well over the holidays, and it seems like that's a direction they want to keep going considering all these new packs and sets coming out. At the same time, their big holiday toy for this year seems to be something called the Ultimate Action Station. Their holiday toy is a set based around the CG era and not the big reboot that they have coming out. Obviously you can will this down to, well, the new show's gotta come out, so it's gotta seed first. Well, there's that, but you would think for the holidays they would be pushing out All Engines Go merch like crazy, don't you think? It's their big new show, they're putting it on Cartoon Network and Netflix. Surely they'd have to have some holiday merch for that. It leads me to think that the whole rebrand to make everything under the Thomas brand, instead of Trackmaster, Take Along Adventure, Push Along whatever the diecast line was, is not a coincidence. My theory is that Mattel is gearing up the CG era to be their legacy merch, with more packs inspired by classic stuff and continuing to expand on the more classic train play, while All Engines Go is going to become their big stunt line. They'll probably get a lot more of the gimmicky sets like, oh, check it out, Thomas does the cool loop-de-loop, while the motorized toys, which seem to be selling pretty well as far as I can see, will continue to expand on classic train sets and such. I think Push Along might also die off, considering the diecast vehicles don't seem to do as great, and also they're getting a lot of repaints out this year, but I don't know, I think Wood is better fitting for All Engines Go in my opinion, and I don't think a lot of people want diecast as much as they used to. That's just me, that could get me into a lot of fire. But again, consider how low risk All Engines Go seems so far, and how Mattel really doesn't want to spend a lot more money on a reboot. If All Engines Go fails, then well, they can do merchandising off the CG era a bit. They got like 500 episodes of the original series to work off of, and honestly, if worse comes to worse, and it's just merchandise from here on out with maybe shorts and podcasts, I wouldn't honestly mind. As much as I love Thomas, I do kind of feel like the TV side of it needs to take a break for a bit. They produced episodes for 18 straight years, plus movies, specials, and other stuff in between. It needs a break for a little bit. I know it sucks to see the series end, especially considering what the reboot is looking like so far, but considering we sort of inadvertently ignited its own demise, I don't know about that, but that's a take for another day. I think it'd just be altogether healthier to just do a season every couple of years and do some YouTube shorts and podcasts in between, with maybe a couple books too, because that's something they do too. I know, but we need a TV component to show that we're still making cartoons and stuff. Check it out, Mattel Television's got a full slate and we got Thomas still in production. I think there's also the benefit of these being more or less their own standalone programs, and kids getting the choice of choosing which to watch. If one side prefers All Engines Go, another side might prefer the original series. It works in the end, it's all about the two cakes. It's clearly been working out so far, considering how they've got so many packs lined up for the rest of the year, and again, the Talking Thomas and Percy set worked, so I think things will work out in the end. It can't be all that bad. Keep in mind, these are all just my theories based on a lot of things I've seen and known and kind of witnessed. This could be entirely wrong, so don't take my word for it, please. Don't put this on the Thomas Wiki, I can't do that again. But considering it's typically a war zone whenever we're talking anything new with Thomas, I figured doing something like this would be a fun jumping off point for some people. Let us discuss amongst ourselves civilly about the new reboot, and not just attack animators and people who work on the reboot on Twitter. Seriously, don't do stuff like this. So that's all my thoughts put into video form, and whether or not you like All Engines Go, I think we can all agree on one thing. At least it's looking better than Mighty Express.
Well, clickety-clack! How about that?
Hey everyone, Milan here with a quick little closing message. If you enjoyed this Ramblings video and want more in this style, then feel free to comment and let us know below. I've got a few things up on the plate that should be hopefully coming out monthly if all goes well. If you want some ramblings to tide you guys over, you can check out the blog I did last year. There's a few different articles, a couple of Thomas specials I've done, and a massive thank you once again to Chris, aka MysteryMan17, who did the majority of the editing for this video. He spent many hours making the funny, and I am grateful. You can check out his channel and other works in the description, and if you like this rambling, I don't know, maybe check out the older ones I've done. Now, I've got to go back to work doing the funny cartoons and train cartoons, so I will see you all later. Have fun. Goodbye.